In the isolated village of Ravensbrook, an old, decrepit house stood at the edge of the forest. Locals whispered that it was cursed, but the new owners, the Thompsons, dismissed the warnings as superstition. They moved in one crisp autumn evening, eager to begin a new chapter in their lives. As the days passed, strange things began to happen. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and doors creaked open on their own. The youngest daughter, Lily, claimed to see a shadowy figure in her room at night, its eyes glowing like embers. The parents chalked it up to her vivid imagination. One stormy night, a fierce wind howled through the village. Lightning struck a nearby tree, igniting it instantly. The flames spread quickly, reaching the old house. The Thompsons awoke to the acrid smell of smoke and the heat of the fire. Panic set in as they realized the exits were blocked by the raging inferno. Desperate, they tried to find another way out. The shadowy figure Lily had described appeared again, this time more real than ever. It beckoned them toward the basement. With no other options, they followed. The basement was a labyrinth of old furniture and forgotten memories. The air was thick with smoke, making it hard to breathe. As they reached the far corner, they found a hidden door. The figure vanished, and they hesitated, but the flames were closing in. They opened the door, hoping for an escape. Instead, they found themselves in a small, windowless room. The door slammed shut behind them, locking them in. The fire raged above, the heat intensifying. They screamed for help, but no one could hear them over the roar of the flames. The house groaned as it succumbed to the fire. In their final moments, the Thompsons realized a terrible truth. The shadowy figure had led them into a trap. The village of Ravensbrook mourned the loss of the Thompson family, and the house burned to the ground. Yet, on quiet nights, some say you can still hear their desperate cries for help, echoing through the charred ruins of the old house. The legend of the cursed house grew, a grim reminder of the night the fire claimed its victims. In the heart of the dense everwood forest stood an ancient cabin known as Ember Hollow. It was abandoned, left to decay among the towering trees. The locals whispered of a dark past, but curious adventurers sometimes dared to explore its airy halls. One chilly evening, a group of friends Mark, Sarah, Lisa, and Tom decided to camp near Ember Hollow, drawn by the thrill of its haunting reputation. As night fell, they gathered around a campfire, swapping ghost stories and laughter echoing through the woods. The fire's warmth and the crackling of logs provided a false sense of security. Sarah, the bravest of the group, suggested they venture inside the cabin. Armed with flashlights and excitement, they approached the ominous structure. The door creaked open, revealing a dust-covered interior. Cobwebs draped the corners, and the air was heavy with the scent of decay. As they explored, they discovered old, charred furniture and walls stained with soot. Lisa noticed strange symbols etched into the wooden beams, a language none of them could decipher. A sense of unease settled over them, but they pressed on, driven by curiosity. Suddenly, a cold draft extinguished their flashlights, plunging them into darkness. Panicked, they fumbled to reignite them. When the lights flickered back on, they found themselves surrounded by shadowy figures, their eyes glowing like embers. The figures moved closer, whispering in a low, guttural language. The temperature in the cabin dropped rapidly, and an unnatural silence fell. The friends tried to escape, but the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The shadowy figures began to merge, forming a towering entity of fire and darkness. Mark, desperate to find a way out, stumbled upon an old lantern. He lit it, hoping to ward off the spirits, but the flames only seemed to grow stronger. The entity roared, and the walls of the cabin ignited, flames spreading rapidly. The friends screamed, but their cries were swallowed by the inferno. The cabin burned with an intensity that defied nature, the fire consuming everything in its path. In their final moments, they realized the cabin itself was a vengeful spirit, feeding on their fear and despair. When dawn broke, all that remained of Ember Hollow was a smoldering pile of ashes. The forest was silent, the only witness to the tragedy. The villagers of Everwood spoke of the lost souls, warning others to stay away from the cursed site. Yet, on stormy nights, some say the flames can still be seen flickering in the distance, and the whispers of the doomed friends echo through the charred remains of Ember Hollow, forever trapped in the fire's embrace.
In the sleepy town of Ashwick, the annual Harvest Festival was a cherished tradition. This year, a towering bonfire was set to be the centerpiece, promising warmth and light as the community gathered to celebrate. The townsfolk worked tirelessly, stacking wood in the town square, eager for the festivities to begin. Among them was Henry, a reclusive carpenter with a mysterious past. Few knew his story, but whispers of tragedy and loss followed him. On the night of the festival, Henry watched from a distance as the townspeople lit the bonfire, its flames reaching skyward. As the fire roared to life, an eerie chill settled over the square. The flames flickered unnaturally, casting twisted shadows. Henry felt a shiver of dread, memories of a similar fire flooding his mind, one that had taken his family in a blaze of horror. Suddenly, the bonfire exploded with a violent burst, embers raining down like fiery hail. The crowd screamed and scattered, but the fire seemed alive, spreading with unnatural speed. Henry's eyes widened as he saw figures emerging from the flames, spectral and malevolent. These ghostly apparitions, consumed by fire, began to pursue the fleeing townsfolk. Henry recognized them, his wife, his children, their faces twisted in agony. The fire had brought them back, but not as he remembered. They were vengeful spirits seeking to drag the living into their infernal torment. Desperate to save the townspeople, Henry sprinted toward the church, its stone walls a potential refuge. He urged everyone inside, barricading the doors. The church's sanctuary offered a momentary reprieve, but outside, the fire raged, encircling the building. Inside, the temperature rose as the fire spirits pounded on the walls. Henry, racked with guilt and fear, realized that the only way to end this nightmare was to confront the spirits. He climbed to the bell tower, the highest point, and faced the fiery apparitions. With a voice trembling but resolute, Henry begged for forgiveness, confessing his role in the accident that had claimed his family's lives. The spirits paused, their fury momentarily abated. Henry knew what he had to do. He stepped into the flames, offering himself as atonement. As his body was consumed, the fire began to recede, the spirits fading with it. The townsfolk watched in horror and awe as the flames died down, leaving only charred remnants and a haunting silence. The town of Ashwick never forgot that night. The Harvest Festival became a somber affair, a time to remember and respect the dead. And on cold, quiet nights, some claimed to see Henry's spirit watching over the town, ensuring that the flames of the past would never return.